Hello class, and welcome to the Sunset Riders SNES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and Sunset Riders has always been one of my favorite original arcade games, not something coming from an existing property or series like your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or The Simpsons even, two great arcade games in their own rights, but this is a fantastic game which translates beautifully here in this SNES port. Fluff is going to talk a bit about the port, the differences, even an interesting Sega port which made its way over to the Genesis. I love this intro though. One of the best on the SNES. And how great was this game when you were a kid? I mean, what kid didn't like cowboys growing up? To get like a kind of a Joker profile look from Billy right there, just nonchalantly, confidently shooting down bandits. I was always a Bob guy myself. And then lastly, who doesn't love Cormano right there? That smile. Good times. I digress. In terms of difficulty, this is an arcade port, so you expect a decent level of challenge. That said, I think this is one of the more manageable of the SNES from arcade ports. There are different difficulty settings you can adjust in the settings, which we'll talk about once we get into it, but I think overall I'm going to go ahead and give Sunset Riders for the SNES in terms of difficulty a just right 5 out of 10. Equates to, on the frustration scale, throwing your controller across the room. Maybe late in the game, right on Richard Rose, the final boss, but you just ran out of lives. Don't worry, Gary's got your boss beaters. Boss beaters always essential for an arcade game because bosses in particular are made to suck quarters in the arcade, but and Blaze has your items guide as well, so let's run the intro. I'm excited for this one. Get into this Sunset Riders SNES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, before we begin a new game, let's take a look at the options here for Sunset Riders. Mentioned this in the opening, you can change the difficulty to get the best ending. You gotta play on hard, that's what we're gonna be doing. You can adjust the controls to your taste, but I'm gonna leave it on default, my personal favorite, where as we take a look at the controls, jump is B, shoot is Y, we can slide with A when we're holding down and left or right, and then duck with the down button on that D-pad, but that's pretty much it. Pause the game with select, and player 2 can join in with start. So we have all the 4 different characters here, all the different bounty hunters. I was always a Bob guy growing up. As we take a look at the Briggs notes for Sunset Riders. The keys to beating this game: first, ABS, always be shooting. I recommend using Bob or Cormano for more spread on your guns. That's the main difference between them and the first 2 characters who use revolvers, you can see right here. The projectiles from our weapon right here, they spread out a little bit. Don't have to be quite as accurate, which is nice in a bullet hell type game like this, where you got bullets all over, more importantly enemies all over, so I want to put them down as quickly as possible. That's number 3 actually. And then finally use Gary's boss beaters, mentioned that in the opening. We just got a couple items here at the start by holding up on those 2 openings. Blaze, what did we just get? How about those items?
Alright, let's talk the items here in Sunset Riders. First, the gold worth 2,000 points. Not pictured, also the chicken worth 1,000 points. So apparently in the 1880s, chicken was worth half the value of gold. It was a different time, class. Don't ask too many questions. For what it's worth, New Life at 50,000 points, and another one at 150,000 points, your extra lives on this difficulty. The Silver Star, this gives you an extra gun, so double up that firepower. The Gold Star, this is faster bullets, basically turbo, wider range, and pink, so I guess that's a boon. If you pick one of these up and you already got it, basically has the same effect as getting that gold, so get some points right there. And then the very rare 1-up heart, worth 1-up. But there you go, the items of Sunset Riders.
Thank you, Blaze. And mind, when you see a stick of dynamite, you can pick it up just by walking over it and then toss it back, but mostly I just like to avoid it. Relatively long fuse on the dynamite as well, good 5 seconds. We have a stampede coming up here. Got some chickens only worth 1,000 points when it's dead and skinned, I suppose, but just hop on. Thankfully, they're running in exactly a straight line here. You'll find that the average cattle's tail can support the weight of the average bounty hunter. See right there. Again, like Blaze said, don't ask too many questions. But anyway, coming up on our first boss here in Sunset Riders, so let's go to him for the first time today, our resident boss expert, Gary.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters. Right, the first boss in Sunset Riders, Simon Greedwell. You want to clear those lower window enemies first, and then just kind of transition back and forth, always firing up to the left and right to clear out those enemies as they appear. You're just through the course of your collateral fire, those barrels will take damage. Be careful when they're flashing very quickly, they're about to drop. Don't let them drop on you. But yeah, just repeat step 2. Aim off to the side once those barrels are gone. We'll take down Simon. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Gary. And in classic arcade style, the closer they are to death, the more they will flash. Very colorful, like a Christmas tree, that Simon Greedwell. There's some great quotes in this game with that digitized speech. Let's listen in here.
Marry me with my money.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. We're bounty hunters. We literally killed you because of money. I don't think we're going to bury you with any money. But anyway, boss damaging ratio will show the split if you're playing with a +1 here. For bragging rights, split the money accordingly, but Hawkeye, Hank, Hatfield, great music once we get to the boss. In the meantime, this is our first of 2 horse levels here in Sunset Riders. Another reason Bob is my favorite, he has the most colorful horse. It's like a strawberry milk colored right there. I love the shading, the coloring on the body of the horse there, and the green tail on top of that, matching our pants. So want to take down these enemies, similar to the Briggs note, but as soon as they appear, just follow along is what we're doing, because in some cases they will lead with the bullets, so even before we can get the shot off to make contact with them, they will have gotten a shot off on the screen. So, and if you stay up front, as you can see right there, one of those bullets almost hit us. Thankfully their bullets are very bright, neon colored, like alternating between red and green. Very Christmassy here in the Old West. That sound of the hooves, the horseshoes on the ground, some good Foley right there. Not as good as another Konami arcade title from around the same time, Turtles in Time. They're on that Wild West one-off stage, but still very good. And the train is pretty easy to manage right here if we just keep on top of shooting backwards and to the left for the most part. You can generally ensure that they don't get any shots off as long as you're getting your shots off as soon as they appear on the train. Ran and Pew. This is where the spread of the rifle comes in handy right here. The dual fisting rifles, by the way. Again, don't have to be too accurate. Doesn't fire as quickly as the pistols do of the other 2 characters, but again, I will happily take the spread. Certainly when you pair it with the upgraded bullets from that gold star, as Blaze mentioned. Very much enjoy this upcoming music though, class. Hawkeye, Hank, Hatfield, just one of the cooler baddies here in Sunset Riders as the train clears out. Like that little run animation, but let's enjoy this. Oh yeah. Great line from Hawkeye as well coming up here. Man, am I supposed to like this bad guy? I don't know. Alright, anyway, let's put him down, Gary.
Boss Beaters. Alright, I'm with the Professor. Love this track here for Hawkeye, Hank, Hatfield. Kind of a similar strategy as Simon Greedwell. We want to take out those side guys, prioritize them. Not nearly as many of them. There's a finite amount as well, but prioritize not getting shot by those enemies, and certainly Hawkeye Hank Hatfield. When he gets close to death, he'll jump down to the ground. You want to keep your distance at that point, just jumping over those bullets. You can maybe bait some of those by jumping before he fires, so he fires up in the air, but yeah, keep your distance, keep firing, won't take too many more shots, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. And he's about to drop down here with us. Put some distance between the two of us, as Gary mentioned. And yeah, you can see we can bait those early shots in. Oof, that was dangerous. Not enough space, but I don't know, I kind of respect that. Just a last tip of the hat from Hawkeye Hank Hatfield as his final words there. He's not appealing to us to do his laundry or anything like Greedwell was there at the end. But anyway, got that extra life at 50,000 as Blaze mentioned. So after this stage, you'll be treated to a bonus stage. This first one's pretty easy relative to the second one. So at first, they're just going to be popping up in the same clockwise order that we just saw from that 12 o'clock and then going around this way. Don't count on that to be the pattern forever here. Just gotta put the D-pad in that direction, top, left, right there. Just hold down and then press that fire button to shoot them. If you want to be cheap here, you can turn on turbo mode, just always be firing, so then you just have to worry about moving that D-pad in the direction they pop up. And they start mixing them in, 2 of them popping up at a time in quicker succession there. A perfect run is all 50 gunslingers put down here, all these bandits. And they're different colors, and you get 3 at a time for the last 3, but yeah, that first one, pretty easy to get it perfect if you're playing by yourself. And we'll get paid handsomely for getting that perfect right there. More than we earned for our bounty on Hawkeye Hank, actually. And the exact same bounty we're set to earn on our next bounty of Dark Horse. Horse looks pretty cool, armored. We have no beef with the horse, though. So we go back to a more conventional level right here. You can enter the saloons. Get yourself, in this case, just some gold if you already have the power-ups at this point. Still working on our first life here, so just made it a point to call that out. Watch out for those guys in the pink shirts. They're better at evading your attacks, and they'll come up and stab you knife style. I don't know if that needed to be said knife style, but there's that 2,000 points. Considering we already had ourselves the maxed out guns here. You can see the decent spread on the explosions too, so you want to make sure you know where there's one right there. That guy was trying to stab us. And then the long fuse, so we can generally walk by without issue. And I think I mentioned, but again, you can pick one up just by walking on top of it and then give it a toss. But again, with that fuse and just getting the timing right, it's not that practical as a practical means of taking down enemies. It'll go all the way up too, so make sure you're not directly above an explosion when it goes off as well. But you can see plenty of opportunities to get power-ups, either if you've died or if your +1 has died right there. Have to be careful when you're on a rope. So there's temporary invincibility when you're doing that hop. It's the same as if you're transitioning up to get on a rope in the first place. We'll actually use this very late in the game. Gary's going to talk about that. He has a great strategy for you on the last boss, in fact, but yeah, that transition of just holding up and then tapping A, like we mentioned in the controls, to go from the bottom to the top area, or vice versa. You just have like a tiny little window of invincibility, which we can exploit to dodge a bullet which would otherwise take us down. See, the fire just lingers for about 5 seconds, but coming up on Dark Horse now, let's go back to Gary for tips on this one.
Boss beater. Alright, Dark Horse, you want to first take out the enemies up top. There is a very finite amount, so once they're gone, you can focus on Dark Horse. Just, focus on those enemies and avoiding Dark Horse's shots until they're cleared out. Then you just want to crouch and fire away at an angle, keeping your distance up top from Dark Horse, getting those shots in when you can, especially when he's just doing stuff on his horse and not focused on you so much. But just keep putting the bullets into him, they'll take him down.
Yeah, some sequences he comes through and just does the little rearing motion without taking any shots at you, and that's a great opportunity to get some shots in on him. Really, anytime that he's rearing that horse back, you can get some easy shots in on him. You can see that armor of the horse is giving him a decent level of protection, so that's why we just focus in on the top, but that ought to do it.
We in deep, big trouble.
There he goes. Tables turned on that one. So we're doing all right for ourselves, earning close to $150,000 in our first few hours as a bounty hunter, whatever the exchange rate on that time is. But you'll notice right here we got a little cutscene. Love those low sample digital speech samples right there. As we move on to the Smith brothers, and this is all boss right here, so let's go back to Gary. What do we got, Gary?
Boss beater. Alright, the Smith brothers, first things first, clear out the men on the chandelier, then jump up there. I like to prioritize the brother on the left, who's throwing the bombs. I think he's a bit more dangerous, so once he's out of the picture, the one on the right, or the remaining one, will start throwing whatever they've got left a lot faster. So that'll be the fire one at this point. Keep putting bullets into him. I like to still stay on that chandelier when possible, but keep it up, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. That was a gimme on that one bomb when we were kind of above the screen. But yeah, after you take down that first one, if you just drop down and hang on to the chandelier, you don't even have to worry about dodging any flames at that point. Fire cannot hurt you there. Not sure where he got that bomb from. As far as I know, he was the fire brother, but nonetheless. Now let's take in the show. Billy and Steve are a bit too cool for this. They'll hang out in the front, just kind of leaning, putting out the vibes, but Bob and Cormano, they're here for a good time. That's why I like them. Definitely the Michelangelos, if you will, if we can make a comparison to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 4 of them, 4 of us. A little less mutated here, and Turtle-y and Ninja-y, but boys are so kind. I'll tell you a secret. A huge reward is being offered for Richard Rose. Be careful, he always has 3 sidekicks with him. Alright, we're over the halfway point here. Just 4 bosses left, beginning with El Greco here on the train. And while we're going to take on El Greco, let's go to Fluff for our first Fluff fact of the day about Sunset Riders. Fluff?
Sunset Riders is a 1993 SNES port of the 1991 arcade game of the same name from Konami, and follows 4 bounty hunters in their quest to clean up the Wild West, collecting 1 bounty at a time. The arcade cabinet featured both 2 and 4-player varieties, while the SNES understandably limited co-op play to 2 players at a time. While the game disappointingly never received a sequel, Konami did release an arcade exclusive at the time title in 1993 named Mystic Warriors: Wrath of the Ninjas, which is considered to be a spiritual successor to Sunset Riders by running on the same engine and playing just like Sunset Riders despite the changed theme to modern-day ninjas. The game even features clear references to Sunset Riders, including part of the Sunset Riders intro playing on a drive-in movie screen.
Thank you, Fluff. Anyone ever play Mystic Warriors: Wrath of the Ninjas? Watch out for those poles right there. If you're at the level of the straight jutting out piece, then yeah, that'll cost you a life right there. All right, El Greco, Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, El Greco, we want to keep as much distance between ourselves and this boss as possible, alternating between the left and rightmost sides of the screen and getting those shots in when we can. If he gets too close to us, we need to move because he's got a decent range on that whip. But yeah, when he's in the air, that's when we can land our shots. So if he's come towards you, get those shots in. And then when he lands, run like heck, get to the opposite side, repeat this strategy, take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, don't underestimate what his reach with that whip is going to be. I think we got him here. If he jumps into us one more time. All right, well. Probably on this jump right here. There we go. Tosses the sombrero and Fluff. I'm told you have a fact about that in particular.
There's a little Easter egg here which is exclusive to the arcade version and requires you to have Cormano in your party at this point of the game. Defeat El Greco and he'll toss his red sombrero as usual, but with Cormano in the party, he'll grab it and don it for the remainder of the game.
Very cool. Yeah, just a little nod that Cormano's everyone's favorite. Very much like the Michelangelo of this game. No surprises there. Giving him that extra bit of love as we're treated to another bonus stage. Same idea, only a bit more randomized this time. The enemies come out with a bit more pace and separation, so as we try to get as many as possible, let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Sunset Riders.
While the SNES version of this game is a relatively faithful port of the arcade version of Sunset Riders, owners of the Sega Genesis were treated to a kind of light version of this game where half of the levels, characters, and bosses were all dropped. Specifically, the Sega version features no Bob or Steve as playable characters, or Hawkeye, Hank Hatfield, Dark Horse, the Smith Brothers, or El Greco as bosses. While it definitely seems like the Genesis owners got shortchanged, they totally did. But it's worth noting this version of the game features a different kind of bonus stage, not to mention a two-player versus mode where players have a health bar and must shoot each other to drain it like any other fighting game.
Good call. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, can't say that we missed out on that. This is a fantastic version of the game right here. As we move on to the unfortunately named Chief Wigwam, Fluff, I understand you have one more fact as it relates to this stage and the Chief, I suppose?
If you wince at Chief Wigwam's name in the SNES version, you probably don't want to learn that in the original arcade version, this boss was named Chief Scalp'em. This name was understandably changed due to our oft-referenced Nintendo of America's censorship policies of the late 80s and early 90s. Changes didn't stop with the Chief's name though, as the entire stage features Native American-themed enemies in the arcade version, but they were replaced by the standard fare of outlaws in the SNES version, and the odd dynamite-tossing female bandits from the arcade were replaced by male bandits, very similar to the gender swap that many of the enemies in Capcom's arcade beat-em-up classic Final Fight experienced when the game was ported to the SNES.
Yep, Roxy and Poison, casualties of that port right there. Yeah, those knife guys are very elusive, especially if you're playing as Steve or Billy with their revolvers. You don't have the spread. Don't have to be quite as accurate to take them out. There's one of those elusive one-ups, but we're coming up on the Chief. Let's go to Gary a bit early for tips on him.
Boss beaters. Alright, the Chief is one of the toughest bosses in the game, especially on this difficulty. You want to position yourself like we're showing, just to the right of the middle of that rock at the start of the battle. And then basically every time he's about to jump, you want to follow him to keep yourself basically between the middle of his daggers and then make sure they're coming down at you straighter rather than at an angle where they're more difficult to avoid. If they're coming down relatively straight, you can kind of gap them and survive that way. But just aim up and shoot when you can, but the main thing is to stay underneath the Chief whenever possible so he keeps those daggers vertical. You can avoid them, get those shots in. He doesn't have that much HP considering how difficult he is, and if he lands near you, jump away kind of near the end of that battle. Keep putting the bullets into him, take him down.
I love this line here.
All right, man. We won't shoot him.
Not sure why both came out of the left channel there, but all right, ma'am, we won't shoot him. My brother and I still reference that line out of context now and again. Just makes me laugh. 60 grand though for taking the Chief down, and we get another extra life at 30,000 there. Or 300,000, excuse me. 30,000. That was ages ago. Probably buy ourselves a nice piece of land at this point, but not quite done yet. Paco Loco. Just a bare-chested man with a bunch of ammo wrapped around himself as we get the final of the horse stages here in this penultimate stage in Sunset Riders. We can actually take down these covered wagons if we put enough bullets into them, but it's not really worth it in my experience. The safer bet is to stay a bit farther back rather than getting right up on it, because you can miss the bullets from the guys coming in immediately from the right side, either the bottom or the top. And again, just want to point out the value in kind of baiting those bullets with a jump so they're aiming higher, as we get that one right there. Oof. Watch those of you who are sensitive to the flash. They were kind of getting away from it in the SNES era, maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much as they did in the mid to late 90s. Still leaned on that for a bit of a visual effect. So this stage is half horse and then half on foot as we come up on Sir Richard Rose's, or the outside of his gang's hideout here. Like those guys with the sacks, exclusively exist to give us supplies, essentially. And those bombs, note, they will explode on impact right there, not like these sticks of dynamite. And coming up on Paco Loco here at the end of this stretch. Note, the enemy's just going to keep coming right now, so Kung Fu style, don't linger. Just trying to get to the end of this stage. Bullets are a lot faster on this difficulty, and comparing the two for what it's worth, certainly from the bosses. But speaking of which, let's go back to Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, Paco Loco. Most important thing is to prioritize the enemy dropping the bombs from the tree, so make sure you shoot him every time he makes an appearance. Otherwise, you just want to gap the bullets of Paco Loco himself and alternate between kind of farther away and closer, just getting those shots in when you can. Just moving back and forth, essentially, to avoid taking damage. Getting those shots in, you'll take him down.
Yeah, the slide works very nicely for slipping underneath the bullets. Little, I guess, Spanglish version of the Terminator there. We didn't even shoot him. Just crouch down. I think that last one, strictly speaking, might have clipped us, but anyway. Get some great music right here, just a quick little piece. As we lay some dynamite, some very powerful dynamite, very close to that man's head. Admittedly a dead man, but still. Suppose Nintendo wouldn't have been too keen on seeing his head explode. Master D style from Bionic Commando right there. As we enter the final stage in pursuit of Sir Richard Rose. You can use your temporary invincibility here to get through those first number of bullets. Just take everybody down. But yeah, I always thought he was one of the lamer final bosses. Like, this game itself is so cool. But yeah, just some fancy British guy is behind it all. I don't know. That's fine. Not gonna argue with a $100,000 bounty. Note that you can't jump on a rope forward, but you can use that temporary invincibility should you need to. And again, that's going to be very important on this final boss, so make sure you're familiar with that mechanic, or at least are capable of transitioning between the top and bottom portions of an area. Take that guy out before he gets a bomb off right there. A second one up for ourselves. Almost scrolled ourselves off there. You can see the bullets are getting faster even from these peons as they roll out the red carpet. And it's time finally for the final boss here in Sunset Riders. Gary, take us home.
Boss boss beater. Alright, Sir Richard Rose gets my award for toughest boss here in Sunset Riders. The strategy is to take advantage of the temporary invincibility we have when we are moving between a top and bottom area. In this case, we want to align ourselves kind of with that right column of that left side of the screen and just keep transitioning, going up and down and shooting all the enemies and trying to get as many hits in on that little barrier which is protecting Sir Richard Rose as possible. Once that barrier is down and he starts moving around, that's when the enemies on the screen become finite. So if we can take out all the enemies, the battle becomes much more manageable. At this point, once they're all gone, you just want to transition between the top and the bottom, in the middle, prioritizing dodging while firing. Just keep this strategy up. You will take Sir Richard Rose down, and congratulations, you have beaten Sunset Riders.
Can't smoke him just yet. Thank you very much, Gary. See right there, we avoided taking any damage. Yeah, it's all about weathering that first storm and taking down that barrier as quickly as possible so that we can get to the finite portion of enemies here on this last stage. And see that temporary invincibility at work right there. That bullet had us dead to rights if we weren't making that move right there. Even when he's doing one of his little slides. His bullets are flying, but there we go. But wait. Not actually dead. Strategy doesn't change, but of course that limey coward is using some body armor, even though we've been shooting him in the face many times. Not safe to be that close to him, given how quickly those bullets move, but yeah, if you can find that sweet spot sometimes where his bullets can't reach, when he keeps transitioning between the same two spots on the ground. Difficult to find, but yeah. But yeah, this back and forth still working pretty well. He's about to go, class. Just realizing we're trying to preserve the no-hitter now. Don't get greedy. Oh, I love that. Love the jump. For getting more bullets in that closer target.
I say, bit of bad luck.
You're the lamest last boss, Sir Richard Rose. But again, 100 grand is 100 grand as we pass the $500,000 threshold. And let's just say, for argument's sake, this game takes place in 1885. Just ran the number through a calculator. About 500 grand in 1885 would be worth about 16 million or so dollars today. So not bad for 30 minutes work. As we ride off into the sunset. There you go. Love it on our strawberry mare. Fantastic game. Again, would have been fantastic to get a sequel out of this. This completely deserves to be a series, or deserved to be a series, but there you go. Big thanks to all my TAs today for helping me out. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in these classes. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. We'd love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Who was your favorite character here in Sunset Riders as we ride off into the sunset? Here you go. And if you played it on one of the easier difficulties at this point, it would say, "What are you, Yella? Try the hard difficulty." So there you go. There's the best ending. Presented by Konami. Absolute gem from the early 90s for the SNES. But that's our time. We'll see y'all next week in the same spot, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.